All right, we are going to get started today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this, hopefully for you guys, a lovely Thursday afternoon. My name is Chris Isbell of Martin & Associates, and we are excited to welcome you to our presentation today on what's new in Acumatica version 2022 R1, which is kind of a mouthful to say, but we're going to show you all the good stuff. Just a reminder about that, Acumatica usually has 2 releases per year, normally around April and October. And so we're going to be showing the most recent release, which is the year 2022 release 1. And before I introduce our presenter today, a few housekeeping items. Our presentation is being recorded, and so afterwards you'll get a link to the recording. That should be sent out in the next couple of days. If you have any questions, please use the Zoom chat or Q&A feature. We'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation, and ask any questions there, and we'll most likely answer them at the end of the demo, but we might jump in and answer them if it's relevant to what's being shown. And that's about it. So right now, I'm going to introduce our presenter. It's Tom Ferris with Martin & Associates. He's going to be running the demo, so take it away, Tom.
Thank you, Chris. Much appreciated. And just as Chris and team will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A of the Zoom tool, know that we might hear Chris also, who's a very experienced Acumatica consultant and practice manager himself, to kind of chime in. All right, so I have Acumatica 2022 R1 up on screen, and we are definitely going to visit some highlights in the software. We're also going to visit some highlights of the mobile app, which received some TLC from the publisher, Acumatica, with this version. But we're also going to review some of the auxiliary resources that the publisher, Acumatica, makes available to all of us as customers, prospects, and in the case of Martin Associates, value-added resellers or partners. Okay, so let's start with me opening up another tab in my browser, and we're going to begin with some of the training content that the publisher makes available through a portal called Acumatica Open University. And this might be old hat to some folks on the call, but this catalog of content valuable to both partner practitioners and customers, but also available even for prospects who are wanting to get to know more about Acumatica, its capacity, and maybe drill down into a particular feature. All this is publicly available 24/7, 365 to everybody. All I have to do is sign in, and that just requires a work email address. It's independent of your Acumatica login if you are a current customer. And using a database, it's a different credential set that allows you to hop on in. If I start here with this learning paths option, we'll see a couple like partitions in that there is a consultant learning path. That would be like the employees of Martin Associates, like Chris and myself. There are some, if you have internal development, and our developers at Martin Associates have gone through some fairly technical training content. Most importantly, for most customers that might and prospects might be on this call, is the end user learning paths. So I'll click on that. And this helps me navigate what I could otherwise sift through in the overall course catalog. The paths are a little bit more focused on what your job title and range of functions that you perform for your organization might be. So I'll click on finance management as an example. And this will have a few, basically kind of a workflow of the basic financials course, perhaps intercompany transactions course, and then a course on price and discounts. Starting with basic financials, which is something that's going to contain content that's applicable to pretty much everybody who interacts with Acumatica from a transactional standpoint. And what I really wanted to point out here is is this, right? 2022 R1. The publisher produced this content, 3 or 4 years ago, I think, or maybe 6 years ago for the first time around, but they're constantly updating it. This means that churn within your organization, so turnover, folks leaving and coming and going, we're changing roles. It means that coming back to this training content can be a great refresher, in addition, of course, to leaning on your partner, Martin Associates, for understanding new features in Acumatica, refreshing folks who maybe changed roles or haven't done a function in a while, or new staff that are hired. Know that you can augment Martin Associates and our professional services assistants with some of the content right from the publisher. And now that we know about this course, let's just briefly preview what's here. First, this training guide button invites you to download very large PDF that is step-by-step follow along, and it's tuned to a sample data set of fictional data, a fictional company called U100. And that's something that Martin Associates, we can help you install a copy or a tenant of that if you actually want to follow along. So we've got follow along capacity in a sample data set, a sample like a fictional Acumatica database. We've got a step-by-step training guide in a PDF format. And if we scroll on down here, for visual learners and those of us who've gotten too used to YouTube and Instagram and whatnot, and just want to be spoon-fed it in a video, there's a series of short video segments. This one's like 3 minutes and 30 seconds long. And you can move through these processing transactions, how to reverse a transaction, how to reclass a transaction, a loan split, and on and on and on it goes. There's a lot of content in here, right? That's finance up there, and then here's the processing of AP bills and paying them. How about paying multiple at a time? So there's a video, written, and follow along options depending on your learning style. Okay, Chris, would you comment at all about Acumatica Open University before I move on?
Nothing additional, no, but it is a great place, like you said, to train new people or jump in for a little bit, or download a good PDF, watch a quick video or something like that. Very helpful.
Excellent, cool. And again, it's constantly being updated. So if you need to learn about the new features of Acumatica, even before you upgrade to a new version of Acumatica, you can kind of preview what it looks like step by step. All right. Next, I'm going to introduce us to help.acumatica.com. This is the publicly accessible help content that we all know well if we are users of Acumatica. It sits behind this little persistent question mark where we get contextual help depending on which page we're on, AP bill or a sales order or a shipment record. All of that content is available to the general public. So if you're not on Acumatica 2022 R1 yet, you can still access the help content and the nitty-gritty of everything. Like one feature we're going to look at today is blanket sales orders. All right, so there's blanket purchase orders. Sales with blanket sales orders, right? So there's all the help content. We're going to take a look at this feature in Acumatica, but if you wanted to learn about it before you actually have access to a database, and what's going on with my refresh there? Let's try that again. Why did I click on the wrong one there? Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on with the help menu. Sorry about that. Let's clean that up. But the idea is that help.acumatica.com should have access to, and some reason I must have put in the wrong search string on that. We might come back to that at the end. The idea is that help.acumatica.com can give you a drill down into not necessarily training, but actually reviewing the features. Okay. One additional resource I wanted to highlight before we start looking at software, and that's builds builds.acumatica.com. Now, this is like an old-fashioned like listserv, but there's a reason why I wanted to kind of highlight it for this audience. If you are live on Acumatica, of course, there's Acumatica's website, acumatica.com, which is all polished and has all the marketing and stuff like that. But as a practitioner, this is a resource we come to all the time. Here's one of the reasons why. You just type in builds.acumatica.com and you'll be brought to this Amazon S3 document server. And if we look at 2022 R1, this node right here, we can see the release schedule. These are their incremental patches or builds that have come out since 2022 R1 was released in March of 2022. So since March, there's been 9 revisions as they find bugs and make adjustments. I wanted to point out the release notes. And depending on who the audience is here, you might be interested in the developer level notes, which are highly technical. But if you do development internally, and certainly this is an asset that we'll use at Martin Associates, we'll visit this. Most of us are probably going to be paying attention to the general release notes here. Now let's pull that up. All right, so this is a fully functional Word document, and this is highlighting some of the content that we're going to go over. It's indexed, and you can preview that which an upgrade might present to you afresh. So if like today we are going to look at, I'll talk very briefly about, let's see, for CRM, right? The fact that some really nice enhancements to merging and eliminating duplicates within CRM records. That's leads, contacts, business accounts. But the deduplication, identifying duplicates in your database has gotten much better. We're also going to take a brief look at something really exciting coming that leverages machine learning, GL anomaly detection, and here's this 243-page PDF that kind of details each of these new features and lists it out. All right, so builds.acumatica.com was the URL, and we navigate to that. Let's click on back here, 2022 R1, release notes and general release notes. You can see a whole list of everything that comes in. Every time a release comes out, they produce this nice looking PDF. And this is something that Martin Associates, we review this regularly. And it makes sure that when you, our customer or prospect, ask about features, even before the release is out, can Acumatica do this? We spend time looking at this, but you are also welcome to do the same. Okay, so that's our resource list. And now we're ready to look at some software. And I really wanted us to start with a review of the mobile app. So this is a screen share of my iPhone mini. Come on, where is that little diagonal? Thank you. iPhone 12 mini. And reminder, if you're an Acumatica customer, you get access to the mobile app for free, right? System included. So both Google Android app store or Apple store, download for free. And they've made some really nice changes. Of course, all the biometrics of Face ID or fingerprint that comes with your device are empowered. And if you are familiar with the mobile app or an older version and you're accessing it, this should look pretty different. Some really nice enhancements, the ability to add dashboard KPIs. Dashboard KPIs in the background are these things. These are KPIs. So if I want to monitor from my mobile phone, AP overdue, let's try that one. I'm going to hit add. Overdue. AR, AP overdue. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to click on the favorite star there and then done. and I have a new KPI on my mobile dashboard. I guess I could be monitoring a variety of functions, marketing functions, manufacturing functions, financial functions, in this case, AP overdue. What happens when I click on that? It means that I can actually see the actual underlying documents, just like I would if I clicked on the dashboard KPI. And now perhaps I'm following up with a phone call to someone in accounts payable. Or maybe I'm actually calling the vendor to explain why we are late. Okay. All right. So there's one highlight right at the top, is something kind of access that dashboards can always be revealed in the mobile app, but new is this ability to add KPIs. We also added a recently visited list of documents and transactions that you have interacted with in either the mobile app or in Acumatica's full UI. So basically that's this button right here. What are the recently viewed records, vendors, generic inquiries you visited, AP documents you've visited. Okay. All right, so there's that. The next facet of enhancement to the mobile is the fact that they actually carved out the workspaces that we recognize. Projects, there's time and expenses workspace, there's the dashboards workspace, CRM workspace, etc. So they're all listed out. And so if we were doing something like under time expenses, maybe I need to put in a new expense claim. All right, so this feature existed, but the UI has just gotten a heck of a lot easier to use with the little, blue bubbles and stuff. So if I'm looking at the expense claims I already have in, those are the claims. So it's actually have to put expense receipts, right? And I need to put in a new one. They've made it a little bit more clear how you're supposed to navigate. Are you adding something new? Are you grabbing all of these expense receipt images and their amounts and categories and throwing them into a claim? Or are you just taking a picture of something new and you need to start that? And then the ellipsis will have additional action items possibly available to underneath it, like maybe adding this to screen favorite. All right, so if you haven't seen the ability to add expense receipts right from the field, let's just do that. We'll hit the plus sign and new expense. Oops, bad typing, Tom. So let's take Tom's fat fingers out of the equation. Expense. Right, so you get to use all the gadgets of your phone, like the microphone. Categorize our expense. Hotels and lodging. $50. 10. And as far as files go, we need to insert a new photo. No. We're going to actually take a photo. Oops. Take our picture. You can actually size it if you want to. And then an optional feature that I don't have ready for today's display is you can even have optical character recognition scrape through that image and actually help build the details of your expense report yourself. Okay, so those are some really quick mobile highlights. Chris, any favorites before I move on? The mobile.
I just like the new look is nice and clean, and then the time and expense right from the phone is pretty helpful if you use that module.
Yep, absolutely. The little person icon down here lower right also allows you to navigate if you have multiple branches, divisions, or even companies. You can basically choose that. This was here, it just wasn't as radio button friendly previously. All right, so like Chris said, some nice enhancements to the mobile app, a little cleaner to use. All right, so we'll take that off screen. We'll get back into Acumatica, the full UI now, and take a look at a few things. We're going to start with a workflow review, and the ability in Acumatica through basically just drag and drop tools to change how it works and moves from like document status to document status. So let's pull up, and I actually dropped it off my workspace, my financials workspace here. We're going to visit the journal transaction form, for example. Most of us on the phone who are users of Acumatica will know this form pretty well. Journal transactions, whether you put it in manually, uploaded it, imported it, or another subledger like accounts payable or accounts receivable or inventory wrote to this form. And if we do a manual journal entry for an adjustment of some sort, for example, it moves through a document status of on hold if we want it to be, then it's balanced, and then it's eligible for release. Unlike purchase orders and accounts payable bills, currently the journal transactions form doesn't have an approval map. What if I want manual journal entries to go through some sort of approval process? How to handle that? Well, you could put user-defined fields on the form, perhaps, or you could do this. So we'll come over here into customization. Again, you need to possess the customization user role, your user profile in Acumatica in order to have this menu available to you. And we're going to show the state diagram. Now, this state diagram existed, but it was a heck of a lot harder to use and interpret previously. What this is inviting us to do, and the font's probably pretty small. Let's see if I can bump this up a little bit here. Let's drill in. Thank you. Okay. These are the document states. A document is on hold. And when it's on hold, what can you do with it? Well, you're still eligible at that point in time to delete it. So that's one outcome of a document that's on hold. It could also be taken off hold, in which case, when you press the button, take it off hold, what should happen? Well, here's the little line. It should move to a balanced state. A document in a balanced state is eligible to be turned into a schedule document that's used for recurring journal entries, right? So these are all the workflow elements. And this screen, we don't have time on this particular demo because I've got so much other content to show, but this screen is meant to highlight how easy it can be. It's literally a drag and drop activity to begin to customize the workflow and inject another document status. After it's balanced, before it is released or posted, I want to basically inject a whole new workflow, and that's an approval. And it can include a button, and we update the status updates. It doesn't require a programmer. Reviewing this state diagram and the training associated with this, in about an hour of training, you can be making modifications to Acumatica workflow documents and injecting a new status like approved or rejected, and then determine what happens next through basically drag and drop visual workflow building. Again, we got a lot of content to cover today. So the invitation, any of the things that we end up highlighting and moving through so quickly today, if you want to see some drill down demonstration of these, contact us. Contact Martin Associates, contact Chris or I, or someone else who you regularly interact with at Martin Associates, and we will dive in with you. Okay. All right, so workflow customizations. Again, attributes is one way to do it. Begging the publisher to add approval maps to the journal transactions at some point in time is another work path, but we've got workflow customization that are drag and drop options right here throughout Acumatica forms. We could be impacting sales orders, shipments, shipment confirmations, pick lists, you name it. Most of the forms in Acumatica primary transactions have been extended with this show state diagram and the ability to customize workflows. Okay. Chris, any highlights or scenarios that you'd like to bring up before I move on?
No, sir.
Okay. Moving on. Next up in payables, we're going to take a quick look at the enhancements to AP document recognition, aka incoming documents. In dating myself a little bit, older parlance, we would say OCR, optical character recognition. It's that, but also combined with machine learning, where the system gets smarter. And Acumatica has some amazing deals on introducing this to existing customers. So reach out to Martin Associates if you're interested, based on what you see here. Now, this feature, incoming documents and optical character recognition of incoming vendor vendor invoices, which we interpret as an AP document liability. This has been around, but they made some really nice enhancements to it. This screen is new and it allows for drag and drop processing. So I'll go pull a file over here. And if you're familiar with Acumatica, drag and drop exists, on documents and stuff like that. But when we drag a vendor's invoice onto this screen, it immediately queues up a pending process example. And if I dragged a whole bunch, and I wanted this to process on a schedule, so this is also new, is that they added the schedule feature for automation schedules to the revised incoming document screen. Drag and drop is one way, of course, to bring a vendor's invoice into Acumatica for recognition, but you could also, of course, be teaching Acumatica to monitor a given inbox. AP at organization.com can be monitored by Acumatica. It will scrape those inbound emails for PDF attachments and attempt to do what I'm going to do here. And that's recognize. And that can be recognizing all or just recognizing one document that's queued up in here. Again, this could all be running on a schedule and you wouldn't even know it was there. Be monitoring an inbox and doing what we're doing here on screen here. This takes about 8 seconds. It starts to get faster as Acumatica learns your vendor's invoice formats. Found the vendor, picked up the document date there. So when I highlight a field over here that's about to become an AP bill per the incoming documents process, on the right, looking for which field the software picked up. And if it picked up the wrong one, I can actually point it correctly. So the description field is unpopulated. Maybe I want this string right here to represent that. So we can actually point the software at the elements that I want to have it pick up. Clicking on the amount field, I pick that up from the grand total at the bottom, and then it even populates the line details, right? So it starts looking at the description field, the quantity field, unit cost as displayed. And the next step would be, gotta get this unique number here. Save and continue is our AP document recognition creates a bill. All right, so now the bill is sitting here in an on hold status with the PDF that came in either through manual drag and drop or scraping the AP email file on our behalf. And it's queued up and ready for revision. One thing I didn't highlight in that is that both purchase orders and purchase receipts, if applicable, will also be linked onto the AP bill document lines. All right, so some nice enhancements to the AP documents, incoming documents processing screen, including scheduling. Cool. Moving on, we've got a lot to cover. We're going to go next to some of the enhancements to querying for data in Acumatica. Bills and adjustments. So the bills and adjustments here in accounts payable is an example of an Acumatica primary list for GI, primary list, because there's the suffix. Acumatica kind of puts together like these are primary transactions, right? These aren't necessarily a custom generic inquiry. These are the forms that generic inquiries of the data comes with Acumatica out of the box. And we all know about the ability to move fields around and build pivot tables. But I wanted to highlight some of the enhancements they made to usability with this last release. Side panels were in there, but they made them a heck of a lot easier to see and invoke and create. So, for example, what's a side panel? And I'll show you here how this is constructed. So when I highlight a given row, like here's go-to vendor is the supplier, and I'm invited to pop open a side panel and actually see the vendor record in a side panel while still viewing the list of bills and adjustments. Of course, I could click into the vendor and invoke that and pull that in a pop-up screen or another tab, but sometimes it's really nice to just be able to visit a side panel. And how that gets performed, we'll take a look at. Let's edit our generic inquiry. And here in the navigation invitation is, of course, that list is driven by the underlying bills and documents. That's what allows us to have a blue hyperlink to go visit the bill that we're on. But an additional line here in this navigation targets of type side panel. Of course, you can design these as pop-up windows if you want to, or create an additional tab in your browser. Those are all options. We basically chose to say the vendor record that's being picked up, please display it in a side panel. Easy. And you can do this with, obviously, with customers. You could be doing it with basically anything that shows up in the kind of primary inquiry fields. Next, we're going to look at style or conditional formatting. Much like Excel, if you want to have a row or a cell display a certain color to draw attention to itself, you can do that with conditional formatting. So let's kind of bring back to the forefront here. What I'm interested in is detecting balanced documents that are just sitting there. Why is it balanced? Why hasn't it been released yet? For example, if I'm interrogating that, of course, I could filter for it on hold or balanced, through a filter condition. But what if I want, in looking at this list, to just be kind of visually drawn amidst 3,000 records, just sorting, descending? I want to be my eye drawn to that. Our generic inquiry here, this style column allows us to do things like this. So I'm basically saying, based on the AP invoices status, and I'll show you a quick trick to discern why I put the character B in there. This styles menu, if you haven't used this before, it's gotten a little broader as far as the colors that are available. Literally, they have bad equals red and good equals green predefined in there, but there's all sorts of other colors that they've kind of predefined. We put in an expression, a conditional check, an if then. Okay, and that's saved. And let's go view our inquiry now. All right, so now I'm actually using status equals balanced. I just want it splashed red to draw my eye to it. And you can choose to highlight the entire row if you want to, based on a condition, or you can choose to highlight a cell. Both of those are available. All right. So that's conditional formatting. And as far as the actual accomplishing this, one way to do this is to take the status field. The word balanced, if you notice in these expressions, I didn't put the word balanced in here. I used a code for B. And you can get the software to reveal that by coming into the schema field and just picking like an ID field schema instead of the actual status value schema. Hit save. View the inquiry temporarily. And the word balance is replaced by B. It's got a little minus after it because I chose a weird format. But that's just kind of a quick way to get the a generic inquiry and some of its conditions. And this is applicable to all sorts of expressions throughout Acumatica, that you actually kind of need to know the underlying value, not the cosmetic display the word balanced to invoke these. But once you get that down, you've got all these great colors and stuff like that to make conditional formatting happen. Take that off there. All right, Chris, so quick side panel, quick conditional formatting. Would you add anything else? Any other highlights to generic inquiry enhancements?
I do not.
Okay, that's good. Moving on. So I thought that off there. We'll come back to that. Okay, moving on. Next up is a brand new feature that Acumatica placed in 2022 R1 after a few years of folks asking for this. In fact, I know a couple other partners and customers have actually made customizations to this. It's the blanket sales order. Blanket sales order allows for essentially a contract to be followed through on over the course of time. It's a brand new sales order type. It's in the sales order type menu. So if you're used to managing sales order types like quotes and RMAs and RRs, or return with replacement, where no financial transaction takes place, just inventory going in and out, then you might be familiar with where the order type BL or blanket sales order has been extended. Most importantly is what it does, right? It literally is capable of representing a contract. The customer issued a PO and or other document that says, over the course of this duration from start to end date, I want to agree that you're going to sell these quantities at this unit price for these stock items, which are to be shipped or drop shipped by you to me at one of these, and some customers will have multiple locations on their record. You can basically set that all out in advance if you want to, and basically say, over the course of these next 6 months, these locations will receive these quantities delivered to you at this price on this schedule. And once you establish that sales order, that blanket sales order, either manually through the creation of child orders or a newly added process for processing sales orders, Acumatica added a new action that can be actually running on a schedule. And if you set that schedule up, this will basically prepare shipment records based on the creation of child orders per the schedule that you've put in here, right? So no longer do customers need to actually maybe create sales orders in advance that meet all these conditions. You can put it all under one blanket sales order. And this ensures that the sales order, the incremental sales orders that fulfill this and incremental shipments that fulfill this contract are all aligned to the original agreement. And if we took a look at the sales order, now it doesn't make sense on this. This is a regular sales order, but the actual child sales order, which might be of order type SO, you'll actually see a reference to this, the blanket sales order, that's governing that. It doesn't mean that the customer can't have ad hoc sales order requests, but when they say, I'm basically invoking the contract we talked about under my PO number 65555, I want an additional 100 units shipped to me at this location. You can have it all recorded, and there's a whole bunch of brand new reports that came with this blanket sales order feature. All right, again, invite anyone on this call to follow up with your Martin Associates representative or consultant, and we're happy to dive in more detail, show you an example, blanket sales order functions. All right, moving on. Chris, anything before I go? Next.
No, please keep moving along.
Yes, sir. All right, so next feature, business events has been around for quite some time, but with 2022 R1, Acumatica has made some nice enhancements. First, it kind of comes pre-configured here in our sales demo instance with a bunch of like more tangible examples. Some of the original examples were a little bit esoteric. These are much more practical, like a business event that either changes data or notifies somebody when and if a back order is created, or support cases for a customer. Visiting one of these lets us kind of take a look at some of the other enhancements that have been made recently. Oops, I gotta hit my plus sign, sorry. So I guess I need to pull up a better example here. Sorry about that. Let's put aborted shipment here. There we go. All right, so this is a qualifying screen where we can see additional types. So what is a business event capable of doing? It's capable of changing data in Acumatica based on another condition. So it's kind of an automation workflow. It's capable of sending out notifications to us humans on our mobile phone or in our email inbox. And under what condition does Acumatica do something as part of this workflow? That's been nicely enhanced. Trigger because record change detected, trigger on schedule, or trigger by action, right? So you can put time fences in, you can have a user change the status from A to B, and then that triggers something else to happen. And which particular fields are tracked, and who are the subscribers? In other words, who receives a notification, for example, and what notification is it? All right, so some really nice enhancements to business events. When this first came out a few years ago, it was a little cryptic trying to use this. It just made it a heck of a lot easier. And of course, you have access to the history about every time that this business event has fired and actually done something. I'm going to record that. All right, so enhancements to business events. Next up is kind of a look forward, and then I'll circle back on a couple other pieces of content. Looking forward, I want to draw our attention to a new gadget, GL anomalies. And so Acumatica introduced this at the summit, and it is present in the sales demo instance, which we can help customers look at. GL anomalies is really kind of the next level of machine learning, where much like using Siri, the first time you open up your Apple phone and you teach the voice recognition program to understand your inflections, and you repeat your voice a few different times saying some ridiculous phrase like, the cow jumped over the moon. You say it a few times and the system starts to learn. GL anomalies is a financial monitoring tool equivalent in that we teach it what a normal period or two looks like, and then the machine is capable of certain areas of detecting anomalies and flagging them per the dashboard we have here. I put this under a chapter today of pending because this is in a managed release right now. It's not widely available. Acumatica plays a significant role in deploying this right now because it's sort of in beta, in the customer, partner, and Acumatica are all involved. But by fall, and so 2022 R2, which should come out in September or October, this will be in general availability release, and we're going to start to see it have made it through beta and some of the bumps ironed out. So, GL anomalies, Acumatica taking advantage of machine learning coming up on the radar. All right. I'm going to move next to CRM and some marketing enhancements. Let's pull up our assignment and updating and validation and calculation. Okay, great. Customer contacts. Cool. First and foremost, for CRM integration, I mentioned some enhancements to merging and deduplication and duplicate detection. that's been added to Acumatica marketing or CRM features. They've also added a whole bunch of pre-configured import scenarios as well. So importing data in the form of leads or contacts, whether it was a trade show, attendance list, rather than having to create those yourself or lean on Martin and Associates to create an import scenario for you based on, say, an Excel template. Acumatica has added a whole bunch more import scenario templates for both marketing and a bunch of other features. Let's go pull that list up here. So we go look at our import scenario list. Those are all predefined. So if you're an administrator that's busy pulling data in to Acumatica, another enhancement here is that they actually finally added a primary list to actually be able to search through all 105 kind of pre-configured import scenarios. So importing quick checks, and where my lead one example go. All right, importing these from Excel, and there's the HubSpot if you use that, or from Salesforce. So our Excel-based one is pre-configured, and the nice thing about this, it means if you can come here and drop this Excel template out, and now you have a template for asking everybody. If you go to a trade show, or if you get a trade show list, if you just convert that data into this format, it'll come. We'll be able to import it right into the lead form, the lead records in Acumatica CRM. All right, so it's an example of the publisher continuing to not only build features, but then turn around and make those features after they're initially built a heck of a lot easier to use in the form of some of the pre-built configurations. All right, I was going to go next to some additional pre-configuration build out on the part of the publisher. This is another area that continues to be enhanced by Acumatica. Let's take a look at the predefined user roles list. All right, so if you are in manufacturing, the Acumatica prior to this release really came with no security direction for partitioning out all the manufacturing workflows of queuing up inventory and staging it for production runs, executing production orders and their operations, recording the final move, and even some of the accounting behind manufacturing inventory management. And now they've added this whole library. With each release of Acumatica, Acumatica tackles one or two functional areas, and rather than leaning on the customer or the partner, Martin Associates, to help define the security associated with sales or manufacturing or accounts payable, they continue to build out with each release additional predefined user roles that can be applied to kind of hem in who has access to what and why. Okay. Yeah, similarly, if we went into sales, CR, there we go. Gotcha. So the sales and marketing list. If we go a quick refresher for those who might not be as familiar with that, Acumatica's structure in general of these predefined user roles would be a view role that's granted to lots of folks, a clerical role where you have access to the primary inputs, in this case, AP bills and check runs, for example, and then kind of the third kind of top of the pyramid would be a much smaller, maybe only one person in the organization who possesses the AP admin role for making modifications to entry, some of the controls or like types values or class values, in this case, like the vendor class. Okay, and then that process repeats throughout AP and AR and fixed assets, etc. All right, so some user roles, another area that Acumatica is constantly making enhancements, even if there wasn't a great new gadget to take advantage of for an upgrade. The enhancements to some of the pre-configured import scenarios and user roles are one of many reasons to remain current with Acumatica, and Martin Associates will help you guys do that. I'll start to wrap up here with a few general declarations. Reminder, if you're an Acumatica SaaS subscriber, and Acumatica and Amazon Web Services hosts your Acumatica database, you get a free 90-day sandbox every time one of these major releases comes out for R1 and R2. So in approximately March and October on the release schedule, you become eligible for a free 90-day sandbox to take a copy of your entire database, upgrade it, and then offline, independent of your production or live system, go through exploration of these new features and conduct testing and confirm your readiness for an upgrade. Okay, so I've been speaking quite a bit. I think Betsy and Chris, if you want to, are there any questions or chat commentary that that we can address?
Thank you, Tom. That was a good, robust overview of not everything, but a lot that's new. So we appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a question about, you kind of answered part of it about getting the 90-day upgrade. But just a little in general, how, if they want to upgrade, how would they go about that? Like how do they start the process?
Sure, absolutely. Happy to comment there. First is if you are a small business edition customer of Acumatica, you're not on the advanced edition or the enterprise edition. By default now, small business edition comes with, quote, always current, which means that this list of builds that we saw during the initial documentation or resources review, it means that moving you from build to build happens automatically. All right, so that's kind of layer one. If you're small business edition, you're updated automatically because the assumption is that there aren't customizations or other possible impediments to easily upgrading. And so you're on a kind of a schedule. If you're an advanced edition or enterprise edition of Acumatica, the process for you is really to start with reaching out to your partner, us, Martin Associates, and say, I am interested for the following reasons, or Martin Associates, tell me, why should I upgrade? And we can refer back to some of the enhancements to Acumatica that we looked at today. There's also a contractual obligation to remain upgraded. Acumatica supports a given release for approximately 18 to 24 months. So Acumatica 2022 R1 came out in March of 2022. By March of 2024, this will be an unsupported version, or about to become an unsupported version. And so upgrading approximately once a year is a contractual obligation of licensees of Acumatica. Otherwise, you're on an unsupported version. You risk elevated renewal fees for being on an unsupported version. So most important takeaway, contact Martin Associates. We will help you establish a sandbox and help guide you through testing in that sandbox and confirming that all departments and users are ready to do their job in the upgrade, make sure the upgrade doesn't break anything, possibly revising the API, possibly updating the integration with the third-party software, and all that gets tested. So most important, contact Martin Associates, and we will begin the process of evaluating what your upgrade path looks like. Chris, would you add anything to that?
No, I would not. I appreciate that.
Okay, super.
Yeah. I think we are good for today. So everybody, thanks for joining. We appreciate it very much. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us here at Martin and Associates, myself, Tom, Betsy, and we'd be happy to help do anything, further demos, talking about upgrades, new features, anything else like that. So thank you all very much.